Well, welcome everybody, and welcome back to the Insiders with Liz and Amber. And we are coming to you from Giant TV as well as the Paranormal Network. And today we are so excited because we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Sierra. She's been a yogi since the age of 20 and now has turned into multifaceted entrepreneurship, who hosts panels, runs her own yoga studio, started a clothing company, trains yoga teachers, hosts retreats, and coaches holistic health with her partner. She has grown her brand into an ever-expanding collection of gifts and skills and loves to use her free time for personal development. Currently, she is enrolled in a health coaching program with Institute and preparing to open a holistic health facility out west and South America. How exciting. Welcome, Sierra. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Wow, such an amazing bio. Like really, like you're the real deal. So let's start really by, sort of giving our viewers and listeners a little bit more about you. Can you describe you in a nutshell?
Well, I think it's important to say that I started really young. I was sort of forced to learn management and all these little nuances that you need to know in business because I moved out when I was 16. And I've just sort of had to figure out that component of managing money and how to make connections and network. And I also started teaching yoga when I was 20. So most people don't start to teach right off the hop, but as soon as I came back from India, I had this opportunity, and that opportunity just kind of gave me a great foundation on my resume. So I've just been teaching ever since the day I started yoga, essentially. And it's been really beautiful, just the way that the practice has really shown me how important it is to live in alignment so that opportunities can really come to you, and how important it is to really be truthful about where you are in your life so that you're not sort of manifesting or working from a false place or a false belief of yourself. And it's funny because, the whole time I'm wow, I'm going so slow. Oh my gosh, I'm 24. I still don't have anything. Oh my God. I'm 27, I still don't have anything. And it's now finally, I'm okay, I'm 30, and I'm looking back and I'm just oh, you did have those things, but as much as you want to believe in yourself, you also have to give yourself that time for your body and everything else to catch up. No matter how big your dreams are, you kind of have to play a bit of a waiting game to really feel you are experienced and to really feel you do know what the hell you're talking about. You haven't just passed a test or whatever. And now I live in a community house. It's Oblong Yoga House. I live with 4 other women, and it's just the most harmonious lifestyle. Everyone is so supportive. They're all entrepreneurs as well. None of us have a 9-to-5 job. We're all just figuring it out, trying to build our brand, and trying to use co-creation and collaboration as much as possible to make that happen. And I just started doing this sort of holistic lifestyle coaching with my partner. It wasn't even something I was really looking to do. It was kind of something he started, and he thought I'd be a great addition. And it just seems like one of those things where the universe again is no, there's a reason why he was doing this, and there's a reason why you were together, because it just jives with me so nicely. I didn't think I liked the power of having that much input, or even maybe having that much trust to shape and help mold someone's life. But with everything I've learned, especially with INN, it's called Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and it's a health coaching program where they just talk about everything from all the diseases to Reiki healing, and all their speakers are from all over the world, and it's really different perspectives from people that are doing the work, but also people that have the PhD, and they mesh really well together. And so learning from them has really given me the confidence where, okay, I don't need to have a PhD to be able to listen to someone, or I don't need to have to have millions of dollars in the bank to tell someone how to be a bit more conscious with their spending habits. It's letting people meet you where you're at. And now I just feel finally everything's kind of coasting in life, and I can step back and start to reiterate those little pieces of the puzzle that are slowly growing in their beautiful ways. Yeah.
Amazing. And, you know, and that is being in alignment with yourself, right? And when you're understanding more about who you are, and you're like you said, you're all trying to figure it out and do your own thing, that's the most important part of being authentic and being in alignment. And, you know, even what you just said about, you know, having to have a PhD to help people, you're in those, you know, people's lives or that person's life because you have the best experience to be able to help them with what they need to have that integrative experience. So how do you find the holistic health approach? Like your energy is so zen. So I think everybody out there first and foremost wants to know, how do you create that zen feeling? Like how does holistic health or conscious communication we're talking about, or, you know, something today, like how do you get to that space where you just feel like aligned, balanced, grounded?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing I'm like learning the most is, you know, we have to sort of step back from health as just being about like food and movement and meditation. There's really so much more that goes into those factors. And it's almost like we're trying to work with a broken system. Like, why are there still so many programs out there to like lose weight and get fit? If one worked, like, wouldn't we all be doing that? So I think there's huge pieces of the puzzle we're not looking at. And with holistic health, what we call it is primary foods, where it's like, hey, before you even think about what you're eating, how you're moving, think about like, are you satisfied in your career? Are you having deep and meaningful relationships? Do you have a spiritual practice? Like those sort of pillars, because usually the stress and or like absence of feeling fulfillment there will lead you to try and fill ourselves in the only way that we can like tangibly fill ourselves. So we eat food, or we're just like, oh, I just need to like work out and get ripped. Like it can go both ways, you know. We can be overly healthy to an obsessive point and still not feel healthy, and we can be totally negligent of it and be obviously unhealthy. So it's trying to find that balance of going a little deeper with the conversations and having the courage to sort of like be vulnerable and say, look, okay, yeah, I have the job, I have the relationship, but like I'm not satisfied. So are you really happy at the job? Like are you getting all your needs met in your relationships? And then once those are sort of filling, we call it crowding out. You know, we don't actually need to change anything. We don't need to take anything away. We're just going to start adding some good things in. We're going to make these really small incremental changes that are super sustainable for a long period of time. So you're not going to have time to think about like the toxic habits because you'll be too full with the healthy habits. You know, you won't have time to think about your shitty job because you'll be too enthralled with like your passion purpose. And it's just like, you know, we're trying to just look at the positives, and hopefully the negatives will just naturally change. And that's kind of the same for food, you know, and we're trying to get healthy. We're not trying to say like, don't eat these things, just start eating the things your body actually needs. And you're probably not going to want to crave the other things because you're actually satisfied with your macros and all your minerals, and you're not just trying to hit a calorie deficit, which really isn't for your body. As it can make an aesthetic change, it's not probably doing the best for all your organs and your hormones. So yeah, it's really about getting to the root and like satiating that completely, and then being like, okay, is it still a problem now, instead of just trying to change things to make the problem more comfortable in the moment.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So is that what the In Institute does? Is it aligns people with the root of their problem?
Yeah, they talk a lot about like, you're talking about primary foods first and foremost, and just making like small incremental changes and getting people in a place where they just feel happy with however they're spending the majority of their time. Because, you know, it's not just about eating. Like so much of our life isn't eating, you know, so much of our life isn't just working out. That's like maybe an hour or 2 hours of our day. So even if you're making really awesome choices there, but you're not making awesome choices for the 80% of your life, like it doesn't really matter.
Yes. You know, that, oh my goodness. And, you know, I can attest to that because, so everybody who's listening right now, most of you know I had an unhealthy obsession with Diet Pepsi. Like to the point where if you think of Amber Price, you probably think of Diet Pepsi, because that's how much I needed to drink it per day. But my example here is I changed that. I changed it, and I drink water, which is what I'm supposed to be doing anyways, but drinking water. And the more water I drank, the less I had the space to drink the Diet Pepsi. So I was drinking way more water. And that urge wasn't there to be looking for something or to have that kind of, you know, unhealthy desire to go to that, because that was a quick and easy thing to do. So I totally can resonate with that. As well as, like, I noticed for myself, you know, watermelon or pear or, you know, broccoli, things like that. The more I had of that, the less I actually craved of sugar or carbs like pastas and breads and things. So making the space is just about, yeah, exactly what you said, filling up and doing what you need naturally to do, and it just crowds out the rest. When you talk about primary food, Sierra, can you just explain exactly what a primary food might be to the listeners?
Yeah, so it's kind of like those four, or I can remember three right now. It's your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having deep, meaningful relationships,
Okay.
having a career that brings you passion and fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
having a spiritual practice, and your relationship with money. How are your finances?
Gotcha.
So it's like really like pretty crucial things in our life that we don't talk about when it comes to health. You know, if you look at your bank account, you think you only have X amount of dollars, you're probably going to keep trying to buy like the cheapest thing that makes you the most full. But that's just like a lack of education. It's not actually a lack of money. And there are ways, but it does takes a little effort. It takes like informing yourself and trying to consciously choose, okay, I respect myself to this degree that I don't care if that's all I can afford. Like, I'd rather be hungry than put poison in my body.
Yes.
Actually asked me that the other day, and it was over something like tap water. I don't know. My house got on like a crazy kick with water lately. And after you've like not drank tap water in a while, when you drink it, you're like, wow, this is strange. And so I was at this house, and the only thing to drink, like everyone's learning, but it doesn't feel like it's in a way where they're kind of putting all the pieces together, you know? And if where there's no like scientific evidence, it's like, well, just because it hasn't been experimented doesn't mean it's not true, you know? There's lack of evidence, and then there's just not having like this, it being practiced. So I think we're like on a really great tip now, where people are now starting to do a bit more money into the research, and it's a bit more like trending. And that's exactly what we need. We kind of just need it to be trending and get popular so that we can finally have more evidence, and it can finally be like, look, it's scientifically proven. Because right now, a lot of those things are like, oh, there's no connection between diet and mental health. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of
Oh
connection
yeah.
between diet and mental health, you know?
Like, let's look at
There's
sugar,
not a lot of research on it.
right?
Oh,
Look at
yeah,
sugar and what
exactly.
it does to the mental health of a person. It can make you angry. It can make you sad. It can make you hyper. And sugar is in so many things that we consume just on a regular basis. Like if you were to just be buying store-bought stuff instead of making or creating your own food, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're 100% right.
Well, we went on like a sugar cleanse. The whole house kind of did it a couple weeks ago, and just being so cautious to looking what's in sugar. And like, you're only supposed to have about 25 grams a day. And when you look like, oh, this has 3, oh, this has 4, oh, this has 10, you're kind of maxed out. And like, if you look at one thing, like one coconut water has 30 grams. So it's like, okay, if you're going to choose that, like, it's okay, choose that, but know that you need to say no to other things then. And just like being very, very cautious, because right now I don't think people understand, like, there's sugar in barbecue sauce, there's sugar in everything, whether it's 1 or 2 grams, and that will add up throughout your day if you're not really cautious of it. And it can get to like 300 grams, and that's like, well, that's really over what is capable for your body to process. And so you get all these insulin spikes, and you get all these hormone imbalances, and then you try and pop a pill to like seduce it, but it's like, you could have just not eaten the sugar, you know?
Yeah.
Now, do you think it has to do with the scarcity mindset? Like, we talk about, you know, the convenience of things, right? So it's convenient for me to, you know, order a pizza or stop at the fast food place or whatnot. But I also think when we're thinking about, you know, where is the next thing that we're going to get, or what is going to be available, like, especially when we're talking about, say, workplaces where it's a working lunch or a webinar or something, and you've got, you know, kind of a little bit of lack of control over maybe what the employer or the facilitator is kind of serving you. It's, do I bring my own? Do I choose to eat? Am I fasting at this time? I think what I was getting at was the scarcity mindset of, I'm not going to have anything, I'm going to go without. And it kind of almost accelerates the need to have that fulfilled immediately. Like I can think of some times where it's like, okay, we're traveling and I don't know if there's going to be another restaurant for 100 kilometers or 500 kilometers in some cases. So it's like, do I choose this? Do I want it? Maybe not, but kind of that scarcity of there's probably maybe going to be nothing, or I'm going to go without. Like, do you find that affects people's choices in terms of food selection?
Sure, but I mean, it's so funny that we live in like this mindset of scarcity here in North America, and it's like there's nothing in lack here. Like we are so supported and we are so abundant, and you go to places that are actually third world and they actually have nothing, and they're not scared. They're not scared if they're not going to eat for 2 days. It's like we'll eat when like the harvest comes. We'll eat when the food truck from 2 towns over comes, you know? It's you have more faith in your body. Like our bodies aren't fragile little things. They're quite resilient, and they can go through months without food. Like they can go an entire month, and depending on like your body weight, like you can pretty much be okay. It's water, yes, but even still. So I don't think we have enough practices in culture now where we do the detoxes, we do the kriyas, we practice being uncomfortable with that lack of, so that when we do have it, we can really value it again. Like when you fast for even just one day, when you have that next meal, you're not just picking the first thing up that comes to you. You're like, wow, I'm really aware of how I'm feeling and I really want to nourish my body. And you're not eating a big meal, you're eating just what the body needs. And it should technically be that every time we eat a meal. We should be getting to that point where we are so freaking hungry that I'm not just going to put anything. I've waited this long, like I'm going to put the best thing possible into me. And it doesn't need to be a huge amount. So, I mean, it's all in balance too, right? It's like if you're practicing that maybe for a month and then you're on this road trip and you're like, this is the only thing, yeah, eat the burger. But like, if you're on a road trip every weekend and you're doing that, like you can think forefront and say, hey, there's not going to be anything. I should probably pack some snacks.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But it's true. There is so much scarcity mindset out there. And it doesn't need to be, but it can be in everything, relationships and how I'm communicating with someone. And it just seems to be that food, I've noticed in my coaching, is the biggest relationship issue I've noticed with people with food is the scarcity. Like, I'm not going to have enough. It's not going to be fulfilled. I'm not going to, and maybe none of those things are actually true if they stop to believe, like to think about it, like you just said, but it definitely does kind of, inspire some curious conversations around people's identity with food and in their connection to it, for sure.
Kind of like leaning into that. If that's such a fear, why not explore it all the way so you realize it's not that bad? If you're so scared you're going to be hungry for a day and realize it's not that bad. If you're like, if it's such a fear that you're going to be in lack of, I say go directly towards that fear, like go right towards it so that it doesn't have to be a mystery.
That's right. Yeah. Read out of it.
I totally agree. I think a lot of it has to do with addictions, right? We're addicted to specific things. And I think sugar, we already nailed that one. Fats, that kinds of things, sweet or salty addictions, right? And so we're aiming for that, like Amber was alluding to, like that quick culture. Like we want it yesterday. Mm-hmm. And this is, I think, what you're trying to express, is that if you just take the time to pay attention to what your body wants and pay attention to what your body needs, you're going to be so much more fulfilled than that 2-second hamburger or that 2-second French fry. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I do eat that stuff, which I don't eat burgers and stuff normally, I have a sugar addiction, like full-fledged sugar addiction here. But when I do eat it, like say for like a McDonald's or whatever, it is, the first bite is delicious. After that, it's not as good. And so it's like, if you pay attention to how you're feeling, it's that initial, oh, I got it. But it's like, as you get to the end of that burger, it's like, you already know your gut's going to be rotting. You already know that you're going to go through this dumping syndrome that you get, right? Same as when I, OD on chocolate, which I quite often do. And I know I'm going to do it, Sierra. So what tips do you have for people like me who know they're going to do it? Like, what do we like smack ourselves? Stop doing it. How do we get around that?
Well, I mean, if it's something that's kind of constant, I think the best protocol is to like do a cleanse, you know, put yourself in something that's keeping you more accountable, because even having accountability coaches, they're not holding your hand all day long.
Right.
But having maybe, you know, you're taking these herbs in the morning, afternoon, and lunch, that's a reminder each day that's like, okay, I'm not eating sugar, I'm not eating sugar, I'm not eating sugar. And like that is going to also help balance and cleanse. So it's not going to be as intense. Like go to infrared saunas, sweat it out, try to move more. Every time you feel like you're eating something, just you got to find that courage in that moment. Just be like, because if it's an addiction, it's not going to last the whole time. They come in waves, right? You feel that urge and then it passes, and you either act on it and the addiction becomes stronger, or you say no. And just in that one decision where you say no, and even if you say no for 5 minutes, you've weakened the tie. And so you want to just try to say like, okay, no, I'm not going to have it right now. I'll have it in 10 minutes. And that way you're saying, yeah, I'm going to have it, but just not right now, because I have control over it. And then even in the 10 minutes, be like, you know what, actually, I'm going to wait another 5. Like I can wait 5 more minutes and replace it. We're not just sitting there like staring at the chocolate bar, like 8 more minutes. Like, no, set that for yourself and then go do something else. Feed yourself in a different way. Go make some music, make some art, maybe cook just a really delicious meal that has whatever you're craving in that. If it's chocolate, you're usually craving like some sort of almond, or you can make really awesome desserts that have no sugar in them. It just takes a little bit of like, you have to make it essentially. You're never going to probably find that on the shelf, but that also becomes a form of self-love. Like, you know, your body really wants it. You know, it's part of who you are right now. You have this craving. So you're going to try and satisfy it in the healthiest way possible. And that means you got to heat up some chocolate. You're going to find some weird like monk fruit. Like, you got to improvise if you really, really want it, because you can still have it. It doesn't have to be like, no, never. It's just, there's better, healthier ways to get there. Yeah.
Those are great tips. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there that we're asking the same thing, Liz, of how do I get from here to there? And it's going to take, it's going to take some practice and doing it over and over again. And one of the things that we were going to talk about today too, and I'm really excited about this, is conscious communication. So how does that, I guess, what does that term mean to you, and how does it help with your holistic lifestyle?
Well, I think conscious communication is really about like having a very authentic expression of where you're at in the present moment, and trying to be as transparent about that without making it other people's fault. So it's really taking accountability for your own actions, your own feelings, and not being shy or shamed to share it. And there's definitely like tiers to it. There's tiers to expressing it. There's different ways it comes about. You're not always practicing all of them at the same time, but like that's kind of how I feel conscious communication gives me like something, okay, I'm practicing this form of conscious communication right now. I'm just going to try and be as transparent as possible, because, being honest and telling my truth is a huge part of me overcoming my shame. Where in other moments, it's like, okay, maybe how I'm feeling isn't an active part of this dialogue because they really need to be heard. And so it's more about listening and just witnessing my emotions and not being like so transparent and open. So you really got to gauge how it's going and how that like reflects in every other relationship. I mean, starting with yourself, let's just talk about the food because it's most relevant. If you're being really honest with yourself in those moments, I'm sure you'll find that it's not always just a craving that's talking out. It's usually like some emotion triggered that. You maybe saw an old friend, or you're in an old environment. You want that like nostalgia of when you were a kid. And so you're like playing on this emotion and less so on like what your body actually needs. And when you can recognize that and be like, wow, I'm really just craving this thing right now because I just saw my mom and she makes me such great food and I just want to indulge. It's like, you got to really start to listen as much as you're talking to yourself. You got to like, I feel my body really wants meat right now, and me denying that just because I want to be seen as like a vegan yogi, it's like I wasn't being authentic. I wasn't being myself. And so how am I supposed to tell other people to be themselves if I'm just like essentially putting on a facade? So you really got to start with yourself and just like not be shameful to be yourself. Don't be embarrassed that you're like not a vegan yogi. Don't be embarrassed that you drink alcohol. Don't be embarrassed. Like, it's all in moderation. It's all in balance. And the more you can just be yourself and like tell that story and be proud, it's like, that's what people respect. They respect the courage. They don't respect the story you have.
You know, and I'm laughing because it's so true. It hits home because, you know, I get like, I'm kind of fiery, right? And especially with with my husband, him and I have this, it's our relationship. It's what we do. We joke around with each other, but I get this fieriness that comes over me when he's just doing something that's like, what planet did you just come from? So I'll say something to keep him like, you know, mostly it's like shock and awe. So I do it, right? And everybody laughs and says, oh my God, I thought Amber, because of what she does for a living, she'd be so quiet and wouldn't say very much. And I didn't think she'd have much of like a humor. Like, she's really funny. And I was like, wait, what? So I had to have that aha moment for myself, thinking, okay, but I'm human. I'm a human experience. I'm doing this with everybody else. Of course, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to cry. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to have those emotions and understand them and witness them and work through them. But I always think we experience these things, like you with your experience and Liz with hers and mine, because we have to have that knowledge in order to be able to advance and ascend ourselves, but also to be able to teach and understand from a really empathic place where our clients are coming from. If we never had any of these moments where we're like, wait, we're out of alignment, we need to kind of get back in line with ourselves, we wouldn't know how to help or what experiences were out there. So it's so important to know, like, we're all human. And in order for us to be effective, we need to go through some of this stuff, right?
For sure. It's like, it's not what the book says, it's what actually worked. And like, your experience is living proof that at least it's not the only way, but like, this way worked for me. And maybe you can find some gold in it too.
Yeah.
Oh, she's frozen on us a little bit. I think I totally agree while she's coming back to us.
Like,
oh, you just froze a wee bit there, Sierra. You froze a little bit on us there. So
like the saying, I used to get into like fights with my sister and she'd always throw that one, like, hey, you're a yogi, like, why are you mad right now? Like, I thought you're supposed to be enlightened. And I'd just be like, yeah, but I'm also human. And like, you really just hurt my feelings. I'm not going to pretend that I'm just like, I'm not Buddha. I'm a 30-year-old woman trying to figure out how to live in downtown Toronto. Like, it's not
so true.
To eat, you know?
Yeah.
So true.
We do have, you know, with the chosen professions that we've all gone into, we do have that sort of hanging over our heads. And anybody who's in the industry, no matter what level, whether you're in the healing or psychic medium or whatever, there is an expectation that, you know, that people, or a perception that people have about how we live our lives. And just to kind of clear the air, we all live our lives like very normal human beings. We all do the exact same things you do. We have feelings and emotions just like you do. We just, what we do probably different, and I, you know, maybe you guys can add to this, is that when we have an extreme emotion like anger, frustration, sadness, we analyze it and we think how, why, what, where, when, and we expand upon it. So what can I learn from that? Why did I get triggered there? This is what we do differently from the average person. Would that be?
For sure. Yeah. It's almost like to a fault where I'm like, can we just be in our emotion for a minute and not already be trying to figure out like why we're there, like the psychology part. And I think for my partner that can get a little much. She's like, oh, you're trying to counsel me. It's like, it's fascinating. Like, why did you say that? Like, why did you do it? Like, I don't care. We're all human. We do stuff. We can say sorry. Like, who I am right now and who I am in 10 minutes can be vastly different people. But like, why? Like, let's just entertain it, because it's so freaking fascinating how our minds work. And like, when you start to really get deep and see like, wow, this is actually how I used to communicate with my mom, or like, wow, I actually remember that time on the playground where I was like super bullied for my hair, or like, you remember these like little moments, you're like, well, that's why I'm so self-conscious about my hair, you know, or like, and you finally get there and then it's not a mystery anymore. And then you don't do it, but like, it takes a lot of work because like the first conversation is never the first conversation. It's like being in therapy with yourself. You got to go for a couple of years before you really start to make a breakthrough. And you got to keep asking that like really vulnerable question, like, why am I doing this? why are you doing this?
Yeah. So I'm thinking, Sarah, when you're talking about conscious communication, I think it starts with self, right?
Yeah.
In order to really, have that ability to connect with others consciously or communicate consciously with others, it really has to start with you. And I love that concept because I know I've been practicing it, but I think, would it be fair to say that not everyone's going to just have that awareness and jump in and be consciously communicating now? It's a learned practice that you have to repeat time and time again. Would that be correct?
It's a whole course. Like, it should be a course in school essentially. And
I agree.
when I've tried to like help people understand conscious communication, I'm like, there's books. There are literally like things where like, instead of saying this, you say this. Like, it is an algorithm. There is a method to it. There are specific words you use. There are specific words you don't use. So instead of just using each opportunity as like an experiment to try it out, go do a little self-study so that you're actually bringing some new tools to the table each time. And yeah, practice on yourself. Like, what is your internal dialogue? Is it like always super evil and pessimistic? Because you can change that. Like, we are not bound to the personalities we have, and we can really start to adapt them. And, personally speaking, I was never seen as like a super responsible, like I was a binge drinking alcoholic that was flighty as hell, and people don't even trust me to like watch their houseplants when I was growing up. And it was this huge like evolution of realizing like, I don't want to be seen as a woman that can't take care of a houseplant. I don't want to be seen as someone that like has no responsibility or integrity in my words. And it took a while of like noticing that I was letting people's projections kind of also define me, and I was really accepting that label and almost justifying it, to one day having be like, I actually don't want to be seen like that. So I'd appreciate if you didn't use that term to describe me anymore, because I'm really trying to change. And just like being vulnerable in that way to really stand up to be like, wow, that's how you see me. I don't want to be seen that way. Like, help me, because it's not just about you too. You can ask for help, and you can change like your personality. You can totally evolve into like whatever human you're sort of aspiring to be. It just takes a lot of conscious effort.
Yeah, it's so brave of you to share that, because all of us have gone through an evolution where we think, wow, is that how somebody actually sees me? But what I've learned with my conscious communication is I've been more aware that when I'm having a dialogue with somebody, a lot of times I stop and listen now to what they're saying or how they're saying something, because a lot of times it's really not about me or that situation. You can hear a lot of their hurt or their past wounds or the way that they perceive and how they project something. And your ability to be able to communicate that back isn't, no, that's wrong, or no, it's a lie, or this doesn't make sense, or whatever. It's more about the ability to, in that moment, say, I know who I am. I'm conscious of who I am. And that's my version of myself. And your idea is your idea. And sometimes people don't want to hear, I have boundaries and this isn't the way that it is. Sometimes it's this is the way you're going to see it. Yeah. But I understand and respect myself enough that I know what my version of my truth is, and I'll speak my truth. And so a lot of that is what I've been learning recently, because, it's hard to communicate with other people sometimes. And not all the time does everybody, and this is probably what Liz was talking about, like we analyze things and we look at things and how we can fix things and make things better or understand each other. But not everybody has that intention. Not everybody is willing to come to the table, have a conversation, and be consciously aware of what they're saying and what you're saying with the intention of resolving or coming to terms or whatever it is. It sometimes is just to place more blame or to place more hurt or to be validated in their moment. So being conscious, like a conscious communicator in that moment, is words have meaning. Yeah. So it's you honoring your boundaries, but I find the trick is knowing when to say, I respect myself enough to walk away from this conversation right now, because you're not getting anywhere, right? Instead of that back and forth, because you know how crazy it can get. It can go escalated, right? So being a conscious communicator is not letting it get to that you said, he said, she said thing, right?
Well, I think the fact if you're not getting triggered by someone else's triggers shows how much you are doing the work, because we're always going to be triggered by things that aren't healed within ourselves. And so you'll never be able to hold space for someone for something that you still haven't worked through on your own. Or if you did, it's going to be a very different dialogue. It's going to be much more of like storytelling and empathy where you're both like kind of sharing at the same time. If that's not what your partner needs or the person needs, and you just start bringing up your own stuff or your own triggers, it's not going to help them. And also,
Yeah.
like, if they're not able to find the conscious communication, we don't have to talk to everyone. You can just,
That's right.
no, we don't have to. There's other people that will maybe jive better with their communication style. And you don't have to try to pull teeth to be the one that fixes their life, which I think we can really get caught up in. Like, they came to me, I must be the one. Like, there's a reason for this. And sometimes the reason is to show you that you should set stronger boundaries on who you're willing to work with, on who you're willing to partner with, because it's not your job to figure it out for other people. And as it shows how much people are doing the work, if their triggers, if your stuff brings up their stuff, then it's like, wow, yeah, I guess you have like a lot of stuff too, you know, and it's important to acknowledge that. So
I think you've just stated it beautifully. It is not our job to fix or hold someone's hand through their life. And I think every human on some level wants to be a support system to another. Most humans do. But we also have an idea of how they're going to get there. And we have to remember that free will clause, right? People have free will. They're going to follow the path they're going to follow, regardless of what we bring to the table for them. And I can't stress this enough to all the listeners and viewers. Until we all focus on self a little bit more and really take care of what we need to take care of, we're not going to be able to support others on their journey until we know what we're doing on ours. Would that not be how you're thinking, Sierra?
totally, yeah. The more you can fix yourself, the more you can like help fix other people, and take it as an opportunity. Every time you are triggered by someone else's stuff, it's like, okay, go heal that so that you can, if you really want to be there for someone, go heal yourself so that you can really be there for them. And it doesn't have to be about you, but like also the respect that, hey, I'm not ready to hold space for you in this capacity because it's triggering me a lot.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Fair.
I gotta find someone to talk to about my triggers that isn't triggered by this, you know? No, otherwise we're just going around in a circle. And
So true. Oh my goodness. Well, I was so excited to have you on today, Sierra. And I know that, we're talking about this today because it's something that someone out there needs to hear or wanted more information on. So I'm, as always, I'm very happy to see you, Liz. And thank you, Sierra, for coming on today.
thanks.
And thank you, everybody out there for listening.
Well, Sierra, before we go, Amber, Sierra, can you give people information on how to find you if they need your help?
Yeah, so I'm all over Instagram, and I have a website, Sierra Madre Spiritualpreneur. And on Instagram it's Sierra Life. I share a lot of the stuff
Oh, we've lost her.
there. And best way to here.
Here you are.
Here. I'm here.
There you
Yeah.
are.
There you are. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll post.
I have it in the link. In this live description, all of her contact information is there, so that you can reach out to Sierra as well.
Thank you so much, Sierra and Amber. Love you. Oh, it's been amazing chatting with you.
It went by so quick. I thought it was 10 minutes.
I know, it's so fast. It's so nice to just chat with people organically. It flies by so quick.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Take care, hun.